I want to highlight a couple of interesting revelations in an in-depth interview between journalist David Samuels and Obama biographer David Garrow. Now, what I'm going to talk about doesn't do justice to the richness and complexity of this interview, and I think it's actually worth a more in-depth treatment that I'm going to give it today. So I'm just going to touch upon some of the highlights in the interview, and then perhaps tomorrow I will go a little bit more in-depth into, because there are a lot of textures here and kind of sidelights that bring out Obama in a way that is recognizable to someone like me who knows, who has a pretty good grasp on Obama. And as I say, it relates to what we're doing now, because Obama remains, the ghost of Obama, arguably, is still around. And some would argue that Obama himself is still running the place. Now, the aspect of the interview that's gotten the most attention is this idea that that his girlfriend talks about his, quote, gay fantasies. And we're talking about a woman named Alex McNear. She was Obama's girlfriend at Occidental College. And apparently, Obama not only told her, but he wrote letters to her about how, quote, he repeatedly fantasizes about making love to men. Now, this is all very interesting because if you might recall that in the film Trump Card, I interview a guy named Larry Sinclair who talks about the fact that his dealings with Obama were far more than fantasies. He actually had a male sexual relationship with Obama. By the way, I recently posted the conversation between me and Larry Sinclair on Twitter and on social media. So even if you haven't seen the film, you can go to my Twitter feed and watch it there. And I'm scrolling through, a couple of people say things like, well, Dinesh, this, who really cares about this? This is basically whether Obama's gay and so on. Well, obviously the guy hasn't watched the interview. Why? Because if you watch the interview, it's not just about sex. It's about sex, lies, and murder. Now, let's remember, you got this paddleboarding guy, Obama chef, and down he goes in 8 feet deep water and drowns. Larry Sinclair talks about a guy named Donald Young. Donald Young was the choir director or one of the choir leaders in Jeremiah Wright's church. And this guy who Larry Sinclair had some dealings with, they talked to each other. This is a guy who apparently had a sexual relationship with Obama. And then guess what? He ends up dead. He ends up shot in his apartment. The crime is never solved. It's never traced back to anyone. And none other than Donald Young's own mother goes on, tells the media. Now, the media doesn't really cover this. It only appears, as far as I could find, in one tabloid magazine. But she, in effect, says, Obama or the people around Obama did this to my son. In other words, my son was killed because of his association with Barack Obama. Now, think about this. If this was Trump, this would be a massive scandal. There'd be reporters descending upon the place. There'd be demands for an investigation and so on. But here, nothing. Dead silence. And all of this gives you the idea that Obama is, and I would argue even more than Biden, the most protected man on the planet. Lots of information about Obama has been concealed. His colleges are hiding his transcripts. They're hiding his thesis. All kinds of things about Obama that should be known are not known. So this is a very, I won't say he's a Manchurian candidate, but he's a Sphinx-like figure. And that's why people like David Garrow, like me, are trying to sort of get behind the curtain and excavate or find out the real Obama. So this is the relevance of these inquiries. Garrow goes on to talk about, I'm just going to quote a couple of lines here. He says, here's Obama living in Kalorama, and his impact on public policy is never discussed in the media. He says, for example, he goes, there are regular meetings over there. People from the White House go over there. And yet you'd think there'd be stakeouts outside Obama's house. Who's coming in? Who's leaving? Who's talking to Obama? And he goes, quote, there are 0 stakeouts of Obama's mansion, if only to tell us who's coming and going. Then, says David Garrow, he has no interest in building the Democratic Party as an institution. In other words, Obama is not loyal to anyone other than himself. He also says, quote, Barack is actually just as insecure as Trump. Let's leave aside the issue of Trump's insecurity, because lots of people have discussed that. This idea that Obama, even though he projects an aura of security, intellectual confidence, we shouldn't confuse ISIS and ISIL, as if he knows the difference. Or he likes to, we shouldn't call it Pakistan, it's Pakistan. So you've got Obama, but he's all this pretensions, all this posing, all this preening. But, says David Garrow, behind it, a trembling, insecure man. He's also unbelievably lazy. Garrow says he can't go on the Supreme Court. Quote, he'd be terrible because he's too lazy. It goes back to him being Hawaiian. At one point he says, quote, I'm fundamentally lazy because I'm from Hawaii. That's Obama talking again. Have you heard this reported? Have you seen this anywhere else? Nowhere. And then to me, the crusher, quote, he's happy to go on NPR and talk about meaning or Marilyn Robinson novels or whatever to make the wine moms identify with him so he can put one over on them. Just don't ask him to visit the hospital when you get cancer, because he'll be hanging out on someone's yacht with the other winners. And there you have, in a nutshell, the character, the personality, the morality, or I should say immorality, of Barack Obama. Debbie and I both got a little portly during COVID, and we decided that we needed to lose some weight. Better than joining the fat affirmation movement. Thankfully, PhD Weight Loss came to our rescue. Debbie's already lost 24 pounds. I've lost 27. We are now both on maintenance. The program is based on science and nutrition. No injections, no pills, no long hours in the gym, no severe calorie restriction. It's just good, sound, scientifically proven nutrition. It works. It's so simple. They make it easy by providing 80% of your food at no additional cost. They tell you when and what to eat. And guess what? You can do this without ever being hungry. The founder, Dr. Ashley Lucas, has her PhD in chronic disease and sports nutrition. She's a registered dietitian. She helps people lose weight and, most important, maintain that weight loss for life. So if you're ready to take the step of losing weight like Debbie and I have, call PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition. Here's the number, 864-644-1900. You can also find them online at myphdweightloss.com. The number again to call, 864-644-1900.